Hey everybody, this is Brian McNeil with the International Wrestling Podcast, IWP C316. With kind of bad news, we learned early this morning it was confirmed that William Moody, better known to most of y'all as Paul Bearer and Percy Pringle, died yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock. Details are not known at this point in time what caused the death, but we thought, Gerald and I would get together and, kind of talk about the career of Paul Bearer and Percy Pringle and kind of give us a chance to, vent the passing of an icon in wrestling. This gives us a way of talking about it, and hopefully, we can use the comment section below and people can discuss their favorite moments with Paul Bearer and, just kind of move on that direction. So, and of course, I'm joined by Gerald Murphy, my co-host.
Yeah, as everything is.
Yeah.
He's
a bit sick under the.
They're actually one of the most iconic managers of all time. Like, he's cat like, oh yes, I fight it. But just the creepiness he brought to a character like the Undertaker, and as you said off air, Brian, he got her a lot.
Yeah. Well, I just, the character of the Undertaker, if you wrote it down on paper, is the dumbest idea of all time. I mean, it is the epitome of WrestleCrap. And without Paul Bearer and Mark Calloway really pushing the character, it would have been the same as the Berserker, the Warlord, T.L. Hopper, all that stuff.
And for acted serious about the character, like, there's a lot of people that would have had the characters like that, thought that, oh, I'm going to make this funny, I'm going to make this comic relief. It would have been very easy to make The Undertaker into a joke, but these guys just took it so serious what they were doing, and people started to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, the original Undertaker was a zombie, literally, and felt no pain. Basically, no sold everything. So, and I think he was one of the first people actually kicked out of Hulk Hogan's leg drop. So, I mean, they got behind the character, and that caused the people at the office at WWE to get behind the character.
And the fans, more importantly, because as I always say, if the Undertaker debuted today, it would have been shit on.
Yeah.
That's why I always say in professional wrestling you should give everything a chance, because when the new guy debuts, like even look at this new guy coming in, Fandango, we can all make the jokes, but hey, maybe this thing might actually make this guy's career. So why can't we give people that come in with a bit of an oddball character a chance?
But Moody joined WWF at the time in December of 1990, thanks to Rick Rude, because they were actual friends, and Paul Bearer or Will Moody actually knew the funeral industry better than anyone because he was an actual funeral director. So
yeah,
and just took that character to a whole new level. I mean, debuting in 91, who stealing the Undertaker from Brother Love. So, I mean, as we were saying a while ago, without those two, Taker wouldn't be there together. So,
yeah, because where Taker was the greatest presence and he could go in the ring, his character couldn't really hold a mic in that sense, so later on, blah, on the mic. But back then, it was great to have a mouthpiece like Paul Bearer. And as I said, these two guys took this so serious. It would have been very easy for Paul Bearer to make this into a kind of a joke character, but these two guys took it so serious. And I cannot emphasize how Mark Calloway and William Moody put this character over so well.
Yeah. And from 91 until SummerSlam 96, Paul Bearer was with Undertaker, even bringing back the real Undertaker to battle the Underfaker that Ted DiBiase had brought back. and that horrible match between Undertaker and Undertaker that will never be mentioned again.
Yeah. This is one thing I actually respected about Paul Bear back here, is that nowadays in wrestling, managers last, 9 months to a year probably. Back here, it was 6 years nearly that Undertaker and Paul Bear were together.
5 years.
I said nearly 6.
It wasn't nearly 6. It was 5.
But they were together so long. And when they finally broke up, there was no big dramatic thing. There was no thing, will Paul Bear portray the Undertaker? It was just such a shock value moment. And when you build things up like that, you look, like that moment when he hits Undertaker with the urn, it's still talked about to this day.
Yeah. And, of course, that set up with Mankind and Vader against the Undertaker. There was somebody else, but I forgot who it was, that Paul Bear started, managing, and is a major reason Mankind got over, and without Paul Bear and the turn and everything, I don't think you would have had the feuds that got Mankind over as well as he did. So, and you look at where Mick Foley is right now, where he's going in a couple of weeks to the Hall of Fame.
A place that Moody really deserves as well. I really hope Moody does go into the Hall of Fame this year. I really hope they don't jump this completely and just say, we're going to put him in this year. I really think they should hold off and probably next year or the following year. I just really hope WWE don't decide, let's show a mark of respect and put him into the Hall of Fame a month after he dies. It's like, that would be a bit bad. And I'm sorry, Callaway, I know you don't usually break kayfabe, but if Paul Bear's going into the Hall of Fame, you have to be the one to put him in.
Yeah. Following around April of '97, Paul Bear got a new look thanks to a fireball, which eventually led to Kane arriving on the scene and set up a, I think, what was it, almost a 2-year feud between Kane and the Undertaker. Felt like
on and off, it was around 18 months, because he said, like, it's one of the most iconic lines for me in Paul Bear's career, when he actually turns around and says, "Your brother's alive, Undertaker." It's just how domineering he says it and everything. But I think that was around August of 1997. Kane did debut to Slater. Oh, yes, it did, because where people over.
Yeah, well, it was around April that, because I know it was at Revenge of the Taker, that Paul Bear got hurt with the fireball that led to, the less grisly, white pasty makeup, and he started, letting his hair return to its own color, so.
This led him up for moments of his career. My favourite on the Facebook page last night is when Gerald Brian was supposed to be interviewing Paul Bear about this, and the infamous camera never went off. People still debating the storyline a lot. I think it was storyline, but it still doesn't take away how funny it was.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There was a Monday Night Raw where Jerry the King Lawler was about to interview Paul Bear, and the camera, they said, coming up next, and then Paul Bear, Jerry the King Lawler standing with the microphone, like they usually do, up next, the interview with this guy. And then suddenly, Vince McMahon went off commentary, the camera went down the ground, and what proceeded was 2 minutes of Paul Bear and Jerry the King Lawler talking about Paul Bear having sex with the Undertaker's mother.
Oh.
Now, people still argue to this day, was this real or was it staged? I think it was staged, but it still doesn't take away how god-awful funny it was.
Well, of course, following the whole Kane feud, Bear returned to the Undertaker one more time for the Ministry of Darkness, mostly taking a back seat because at that time, the Undertaker was on the mic himself, and
you had Shane McMahon there, and then you had Vince coming in after Shane kind of took a back seat then. So really, you had Vince, Shane, and Taker, and then you just had Paul Bear coming out with Taker.
Yeah, and then when Undertaker was injured, in late 1999, they both stepped away from the camera, and that led to Paul Bearer to take over as an agent in the back, and basically stayed behind the scenes from WrestleMania 2000 on until he left in October of 2002, where he went to total nonstop action and didn't do anything.
Wasn't he a backstage agent for them as well?
He may have been. He was only with TNA for a year. So, and I do not remember any of the Percy Pringle stuff at all.
Yeah, it's very hard to remember TNA back then because so little people watched it. And if they do, they can barely remember it because it was probably on a PC screen.
Yeah, I think that was during their $5 Wednesday weekly pay-per-views that they were running.
Yeah, that's what I said. People that saw it just saw like that, and not a lot of people were willing to pay that much, especially when they weren't advertising anything. I will have to give TNA credit, though. They did a very touching release today on their website about his passing. It was very dignified, and it just showed that, hey, even on today's wrestling rivalries will be forgotten about, and it was nice that they acknowledged not just his time in TNA, but also his time in World Class Championship Wrestling and also in World Wrestling Entertainment.
Yeah. And we had a discussion off air. If you go to the TNA webpage, both WWE and TNA gave a paragraph. Actually, WWE's, I'm looking at it, is 2 sentences long. TNA's is 4. So, I mean, it's semantics. We know WWE wanted to quell any rumors that were going on, but it's been a couple hours. You can get something more.
Yeah, but as I said to you off air, they did very similar things with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Chris Benoit died. It wasn't a big statement. They just released the basics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they still don't have all the details of what caused Paul's death, so they may be holding out for more information.
Did you see that picture I put on my Facebook page of Paul Bearer just 10 days ago with Jerry the King Lawler?
Yeah, he looked really old.
Yeah. But don't forget, he dropped in the last 3 years. And most of it was through operations.
Sorry for the dog barking in the background. But of course, led to WWE re-signing him for basically where he's been the last 10 years following the gastric bypass. Shut up, Shecky. Sorry. And I know you wanted to discuss the gastric bypass incident with WWE, so I will let you take over.
Yep, 2003. One of the sightings bonus was his surgery. Now, I still believe to this day that the only reason WWE gave into this, because this contract negotiation went on for a few months, was that they wanted Paul Bearer to go to WrestleMania 20. As soon as they got what they needed off of Moody, he was just shoved back down the card and pretty much just given a Legends deal a couple of weeks later.
Yeah. But, I mean, his wife had died in 2009.
Yeah, but we'll go back to 2004. I know he had surgery and everything, but why couldn't he just go off TV for a while and come back with The Undertaker? Or be a full-time road agent? You have a guy here that has so much experience in the world of wrestling, not just with WWF or WWE or TNA, but with the old indies. He came up the hard way. He knows what to say to young talent, and yet you have him at home sitting on his arse, and you have a racist in the back writing your SmackDown.
Well, in fairness, he was a booker for the company.
He was a consultant.
No, he was a booker for the company until April 11th, 2005, per the ever accurate Wikipedia, which has been locked down since he died. But he had he was a backstage booker until 2005. So be from March '04 to April '05. So, they started he signed the contract in October of 2003 and last April of 2005.
Yeah, but don't forget 2005, he did sign the Legends deal.
Yeah, he signed his Legends deal, once again, according to Wikipedia, June 10th, 2005.
And he would come back. He didn't come back that much, though. He came back with The Undertaker when he was feuding with Kane, only to betray The Undertaker yet again and go with Kane, because nobody was believing Kane to be champion. Paul Bearer did what he had to do. I'm not being nasty with Paul Bearer. I love Paul Bearer, I said earlier. I'm being nasty with WWE's booking. They brought him in. He actually got a bit of credibility to be champion Kane, and they tossed fucking Moody back out the door again. Because at this stage, Moody didn't have the WWE look. He could shake his booty like fucking Rosamunda. It really does piss me off that someone like this that was a good manager, could talk on the mic, get people over, was sitting on his arse, and you see other managers that could do jack shit getting paychecks in television times.
Okay. He returned in September of 2010 to help with the feud. Basically, Bear, Kane, and Nexus ended up throwing Undertaker into a grave and burying him alive. Then he was used with Edge in a memorable kidnap storyline where Edge kidnapped Paul Bearer from Kane and locked him in a freezer, which Kane then locked him back in the freezer. And then Kane killed him by pushing him off a bunch of ladders to the concrete floor. And that was the end of Paul Bearer.
Until Randall Keith did.
In April of 2012, Bear returned for a very brief stint. Oh, that was the freezer. I thought Edge was the freezer.
Edge had him inside the cupboard, remember?
Yeah.
Or the closet, as it would go in America.
Kane, once again, had Paul Bearer and Randy Orton kidnapped him and stuck him in a storage freezer strapped to a wheelchair. So, and Kane then pushed him back into the freezer, and he was never seen again on WWE television. God, was that only a year ago?
Yeah.
Of course, yesterday, March 5th, 2013, he died in Mobile, Alabama at the age of 58.
Okay, we might as well address the elephant in the room. It's very upset that when a death like this happens, that there's so much talk going on in different manner. But I guess we might as well address it and give our thoughts about it. Will Phil Brooks use this?
No. From what all reports are showing right now, Taker is actually asking for CM Punk to take the streak and everything and be able to finally retire in peace. So I don't think they will, because if Punk uses it, it's going to piss Taker off. And they're always afraid Taker's going to walk. If Punk went out there and did it, Taker could go, "Hey Vince, fuck you, I'm gone," and that's the end. But, we were discussing a while ago
Here's a question that no one seems to be asking. Should Taker address it?
I think so. It's one of those things, because Undertaker doesn't break kayfabe for anything, but
Not even the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think Mark should say something. Even if it's just a WWE.com video, where they talk to him about it. But, we were discussing a while ago TNA's coverage and WWE's coverage. I'm on the WKRG news website for Mobile, Alabama, where I keep wanting to say Paul Heyman. Paul Bear lived for 40, 50 years. They don't even have news about it up on their website. So at least kudos to WWE and TNA for actually admit
Yeah, I was very surprised to see TNA. Like, everyone knows I'm not the biggest Tall Lance action fan, but I will give them credit here. That was a very nice tribute that was on their site today.
Yeah. So, and I know our tribute hasn't been all that great. It's mostly been Wikipedia reading, but I mean, we don't know everything history-wise.
We never claimed to, unlike other shows.
Yeah, I mean, we're going from our memories of what went on and, using Wikipedia as a background, to help us move along from one era of the character to the next. But, literally we went to bed last night thinking it was a rumor or a hoax because it was a call-in person to a podcast that broke the news, and there was nothing from anyone.
There was a call into a podcast, and they said it, and there was no other news for around 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, so kind of makes you wonder about the Chris Benoit, the dogs are out on the back porch kind of thing. There's still been no clarification of what's actually happened.
Maybe that's why WWE is distancing themselves for now until something credible comes out, which I don't think they should, because honestly, I cannot see this being drug related. I'd be very, very surprised if this was drug related.
I can't see. I'm just praying because I know he's been sick and ill and had issues with, when his wife of, 30 years had passed with depression and everything. I'm praying he went quietly in his sleep and didn't do anything to speed it along.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All I can say is that he was one of the best characters of all time, not just managers. Paul Bear, no matter what you think, you could sit here and say he was one of the best managers of all time, or you could sit here and say, oh, well, he wasn't that great as a manager. You will always remember Paul Bear. And that is what you have to do with the rest of the business, Brian. You have to be remembered in the annals of time, and Paul Bear will be.
Yeah. Hall of Fame?
Next year.
I'm saying you do consider him to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, do I consider him to be a Hall of Famer? Absolutely.
So do I. Even without the death.
Yeah. That's why
it's been a long time coming.
That's why I keep saying about Paul Bear, and I said it all just there, and I'm going to say it again. The thing that distinguishes Paul Bear to a lot of good managers is that there was a lot of good managers that you can't remember. You will always remember Paul Bear. He made himself memorable. And that is an attribute to a great, great performer, Brian.
Yep.
Right, people, we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, with a more upbeat podcast. Our thoughts go to Moody's entire family. And take care, everybody.